These doctors may well kill or torture you. They are William Smellie, William Hunt, and Marion Sims, and they might have been responsible for the killing to order, something called Burking, which we're going to get into, of up to 32 pregnant women so that they could dissect them. And Marion Sims, who might have conducted as many as 30 operations on one woman without anaesthetic. I'm going to be telling you about all of these in this video. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm DrLauren-Jane, I'm a medical doctor, and in this video we are going to be going all the way from the smoky streets of 18th century London all the way to Montgomery, Alabama in the 19th century. Let's start off in London in the 18th century. Both William Hunt and William Smellie are doctors, and they are interested in the female body, specifically the reproductive systems of young female women. Now today they are regarded as kind of the fathers of obstetrics. Why? Because they produced detailed anatomical drawings of women who were in the late stages of pregnancy. These images are known as medical masterpieces, and they are still used today. The question is, where did they get these healthy pregnant subjects from? A well thought of historian, Don Shelton, has recently accused them of the process of burking, i.e. Burke and Hare, and this is where a medical doctor who seeks corpses isn't content just to get them from, the resurrectionists, but they are actually ordering bodies to be killed for them to be able to dissect, to learn from. And the most famous case of this is Burke and Hare. Obviously, they murdered 16 people in Scotland in 1828, and they basically, I will be making a video about this, but basically, if you don't know, they started off by supplying dead bodies to an anatomical school, a doctor called Robert Knox, who was dissecting them in his anatomy school to teach fledgling doctors, and they realised that actually there's a really great trade, so they were going out and they were killing people and then sending them across to Robert Knox, and this is what Hunter and Smellie are accused of doing. I'm going to be giving you the evidence. Before we go any further, we need to get a bit gruesome and we need to think about what a resurrectionist is. So Burke and Hare maybe started off as resurrectionists but progressed to being murderers. Resurrectionists are effectively body snatchers, and they are trying to supply the medical school with the additional bodies that they need. Now today, I'm trained as a doctor, I went to medical school, we still use the generous bodies of people who donate their bodies to science to learn and study at medical school. But in the medieval church, the idea of dissecting a body was absolutely horrendous. The church had a firm belief that the body needed to be whole in order to enter heaven. Now in 1540, King Henry VIII allows the company of barber surgeons to be able to dissect up to 4 felons a year. But as medical science continues to grow, it becomes clear that 4 corpses a year just isn't enough. Now the Murder Act of 1751 aims to plug this gap, and it reads that, for better preventing the horrid crime of murder, aka this is meant to be a deterrent, this is meant to put you off killing people, that your body will be cut up by doctors, that some further terror and peculiar mark of infamy be added to the punishment of death. So death is not enough, they are going to keep you out of heaven. More so than they probably will already, right? Because you've killed someone, you're probably not going to heaven anyway. That in no case whatsoever the body of any murderer shall be suffered to be buried, but instead after execution is to be anatomized or hung in chains. This is a humiliation that goes beyond death. Now people hate the idea of body snatchers, and we all, right? No one wants to hear that their father's been dug up and taken to some medical school, right? They operate in a legal grey area because technically no one owns the corpse. Now, of course, as body snatchers, resurrectionists become more of a thing, people start to fight back. They have guards patrolling cemeteries, and they use things called MORTSAFES, which are effectively cages that stop people being able to dig the body out. They even have the dead in secure coffins to stop body snatchers getting in. But of course, this whole process culminates in people like Burke and Hare, and at that point things start to change. So let's come to Smellie and Hunt. So we know that there is a trade that is established, and we know that there is a need for anatomists who at this point in history are desperately trying to uncover the secrets of the body, because we know at this point, before this, people think that the body is, there are 4 humours, the church really hasn't allowed people to dissect bodies, and all of a sudden that's starting to change for people like Smellie and Hunt, and they want to learn about the body, and there just aren't enough bodies. So what's the evidence? Before we go any further, we have to think about the legitimate avenues for coming across a corpse. So someone like Smellie and Hunt, they might get them from people who'd been executed, and they might get bodies from the workhouse. But imagine that you were a clinician, a physician who wanted to learn about a specific condition, let's say lung cancer. How likely is it that this body that you've been donated has that particular problem? And Hunt and Smellie, who are looking for pregnant women, this is the issue that they face. We think we know how many bodies that Smellie and Hunt dissected. It's somewhere between 20 and there might be an additional 12 on top of that. Now, Don Shelton, the historian that we were talking about at the beginning, thinks this is just too many healthy pregnant bodies for people like Smellie and Hunt to come across. He alleges that the childbed death rate is only somewhere around 1.4% in this period. Now, this is childbed. These are women that are dying from infection or bleeding in the process of labour. But remember, Smellie and Hunt do not want women who have died in childbirth. They want to look at the baby full term, but that has not yet gone into labour. They want to look at the baby in the womb. How many of those women are dying? Remember, if women are already poorly with illnesses, it's likely that that would affect the fetus. The fetus might be born stillborn. They don't really want those women either. They want healthy, pregnant women. So how are those women dying? Now let's also think about how these men were coming across these bodies, because if you are, you're a butcher in this time period and your wife dies, you're not necessarily going to an undertaker, you're taking her straight to the graveyard. You don't want anyone to take the body, you're not going to let anyone dissect your pregnant wife necessarily. How did they even find out about these bodies? Where have they come from? That is the question we have to ask, and Don Shelton says the numbers just don't add up. We even have a plate showing healthy twins. Now, if you're an anatomist, the thing that's going to be at absolutely the top of your list are not just loads and loads of women who have got normal pregnancies, normal healthy pregnancies, but you're also going to want the things that are slightly odd as well. They're going to be at the absolute top of your wish list. How likely is it that they were able to grab a woman who was pregnant with twins? That is what's really interesting. So this is some literary evidence that Don Shelton provides, in addition to the fact that the numbers don't just add up. This is from John Hunter. This is not William Hunter. This is John Hunter's diary, which was published after his death, which says, Dr. Mackenzie, then an assistant to the late Dr. Smellie, so he's kind of irrelevant, procuring and dissecting this woman without Dr. Smellie's knowledge was the cause of separation between them. For the leading steps to such a discovery could not be kept a secret. The winter following, Dr. Mackenzie began to teach midwifery in the borough of Southwark. So what Shelton suggests is that there's a real tension in this passage, and that John Hunter is suspicious of these leading steps up to a discovery, and what were they? In summary, for this part of the video, Don Shelton presents really two main points of interest. The first, that the numbers are just too big, up to 32 pregnant women, healthy women in their 9th month of pregnancy who don't seem to have any obvious ailment, who have befallen some sort of illness that we don't really know about. And it's possible that there are fewer women, it's just the way the plates have been dissected that it's showing the same women, but we can't be sure. The other point of interest that he says is this passage where there's this real tension around the steps that they took to get these bodies. Now, if Don Shelton is right, this is a horrific violation of up to 32 women and their children who have been murdered and violated in the most public and intimate way possible, which is absolutely horrific. And I hope he's not right, but I personally think it's worth further kind of just, I think we should be looking into this, because these are two such huge figures in the, obstetrics, and their atlases are so incredibly detailed and have contributed so much to medical science. I don't think, based on Don Shelton's paper, that we have enough information to be able to say definitively that these guys did murder these women. But I certainly think that we should be having the conversation about it, because both points of interest, I think, are valid. But now we go to a different continent to see a doctor who kept his own memoirs and really wasn't afraid to log what he was doing, because fundamentally he didn't consider the women that he were operating on. He didn't feel that he had any need to hide what he was doing, because what he was doing was happening to enslaved women who had very little voice or choice.